chance to hear it, so let her tell it. People on the streets say Sabrina speaks. Tune into the show, she will let you know. Tell all your friends and family. Real talk is no joke. You get the news straight up from grassroots and concerns. You hear some people gone. So tell all your friends to tune in to the
Good evening,
show.
Cayman. I'm Sabrina Turner, and welcome to Sabrina Speaks, your daily dose of clarity, truth, and community insights. Every weekday from 5 to 6:30 p.m., we're tackling the issues that affect you, from national headlines to grassroots concerns. Whether you're in traffic or winding down your day, this is your chance to hear it straight and speak your truth. So buckle up, Cayman. We're not holding back.
This is the show. We gotta let you know. Now we got to go.
And now here's Sabrina.
There we go. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Sabrina Speaks, Voices of the Islands, Conversations for the World, the podcast where voices rise, stories unfold, and inspiration takes center stage. I'm your host, Sabrina, and yes, it is good to be back with you on this Wednesday afternoon. Now, for those of you who are just joining us, welcome, welcome, welcome. If this is your first time, welcome to Sabrina Speaks. We are broadcasting live from the Cayman Islands, Monday to Friday from 5 until 7 p.m. And this is part two, a continuation of a discussion, very, very fluid discussion that we had yesterday. And it opened up conversations, and many of you have that have been waiting for years to really have. And despite it coming from a perspective of, I would almost say, anger, we started to unpack the residential tenancy law of 2009 and here in the Cayman Islands. And that law was passed, printed, and prepared, yet never enacted. And a law that exists really to this day on paper, but not in practice. And for the amount of messages and also voice notes, I got a few voice notes as well, and the stories that were shared after the episode and even during the episode made one thing clear from yesterday's topic, that this topic definitely touches real lives, renters, landlords, and families alike. And everyone is trying to navigate the cost of living in Cayman felt that conversation. So it impacted a lot of person. Thank you so much for following, sharing, liking, and subscribing. Please don't forget to tell a friend or family member. So today, because of that feedback, which is so promising, and it actually keeps me going, we will continue with part two because we did entertain a number of calls. We did even went back to day before yesterday's conversation in regards to another bill that's in circulation. But we will have part two today. And we're going just a little bit deeper, explaining for you. I made copious amounts of notes just to kind of recap exactly where we were yesterday, what we did manage to cover, and to try and pick back up where we left off. But the aim is today is to go a little deeper into what is ghost law, this ghost law was meant to do, and why it's staled, why it stalled pretty much. Never enacted, never commenced, and what its silence meant and is meaning to each and every one of you. Now, before I jump in, let me just do some housekeeping as you all join me here on this live platform, because the content you're about to hear, including any discussions or opinions from myself, guests, and participants, is intended solely for general information and entertainment purposes. It's not a substitute for professional legal, medical, or financial advice. So I encourage you to consult with a qualified professional for specific concerns. Bridge Media Limited and all its affiliates disclaims all liability for any decisions or actions taken in reliance on the information presented. 345-936-8255 is the number to call to be part of this conversation this evening. You are also free to send me a WhatsApp on that number, or of course, from whatever social media channels you're streaming us live on. Feel free to comment and we'll definitely get to them. Without further ado, you know how we roll it here. Let's take a look at the weather forecast for tonight and into tomorrow. The synopsis calls for moderate winds along with rough seas are expected over the Cayman area today in association with a high pressure system north of the Caribbean. A small craft advisory is in effect through tonight, as the high pressure system is expected to weaken through the day, leading to moderate winds and seas by tomorrow morning. Now, satellite imagery shows scattered but fair clouds across the northwest Caribbean. The forecast for tonight calls for partly cloudy skies with a 20% chance of showers. Temperatures will fall near to mid-70s. Wind will be easterly, 10 to 15 knots. Seas will be rough with wave heights of 4 to 6 feet. A small craft advisory is in effect. The forecast for tomorrow calls for partly cloudy skies with a 20% chance of showers. Temperatures will rise to the low 80s. Winds will be easterly, 10 to 15 knots. And seas will be moderate with wave heights of 3 to 5 feet. Let's take a look at our tides. There will be a high tide at 6:01 this evening, a low tide at 12:41 a.m. tomorrow, and another high at 7:46 a.m. Sun will set this evening at 6:22, and sun will rise tomorrow morning at 6:56. And the outlook is calling for continued moderate winds and seas through Saturday. You know, it's a week of love as we head into the weekend. I would like to know what plans you got for the weekend. You know, Valentine's, for those of you who may have forgotten. Valentine's is going to be celebrated on Saturday the 14th. What are your plans for this weekend? Drop me a line, comment there. Let's see if you're all into it, or it'll be interesting to get your take on it. I don't know. Some of you are giving me mixed reviews. I'm seeing them. I'm hearing them as I drop them, but it'll be interesting. Hey, it's how you look at it. Let's get into the headline news roundup that's making the Sabrina Speaks platform for today. Now, we want police here in the Cayman Islands, local news. Starting with local news, police are asking for the public's help in locating 15-year-old Kayla Watson of West Bay. She was last seen just around 2:30 on the 10th of February at the Anthony S. Eden Hospital wearing her school uniform. The Royal Cayman Islands Police Service says that they are concerned for her safety and are urging anyone who has seen Kaylee or who may have information on her whereabouts to contact the police immediately or 911. Even small details could help bring her home safely. So your assistance, as usual, is needed in us helping to find Miss Watson. Yes, there we have it. And just continuing on with local news, the Cayman Islands government is re-examining several of its proposed new revenue measures as it fine-tunes the national budget in response to feedback from residents and businesses. Premier Andre Ebank says fee increases, including the still unimplemented changes to driver's license fees, remain under review as officials work through practical challenges such as verifying Caymanian status. Some measures like higher stamp duty rates in certain financial services fees have already taken effect, but others may be adjusted following further consultation. Now, the Premier says government must balance the need for additional revenues with the cumulative impact on business and consumers, noting that discussions are ongoing with industry groups, including the Chamber of Commerce. There you have it. So you see the impact of your input and the power of your voice. Continuing it on with more local news here in the Cayman Islands. The Cayman Islands government has cleared and leveled 8 acres of land on Fairbanks Road for emergency use, allowing temporary shelter units to be deployed quickly if needed as part of contingency planning for potential regional migration developments. Cayman is currently hosting 26 Cubans following the arrival of 10 nationals in Little Cayman on 1st of February. Now, while there's no indication of an imminent mass migration event, a multi-agency mass migration committee has been activated to ensure readiness. Officials stress that any use of the Fairbanks site would be short-term and tightly controlled, with long-term plans focused on a multi-purpose built detention and processing center. Now, following the recent detainee escape, CBC is urging the public to stay vigilant and report suspicious activities. Penalties for unlawful landing or assisting migrants include fines up to 50,000 CI, prison terms of up to 7 days. So there you have it. Giving you local updates and confirmation. This was one that we shared yesterday, but now Cayman Airways is advising passengers of possible disruption to its weekly Havana flights due to a jet fuel shortage in Cuba. A NOMTAM, N-O-T-A-M, issued by Cuban Aviation Authority says Jet A1 fuel would not be available at Jose Marti International Airport from February 10th to March 11, affecting all international airlines. CAL says the shortage, along with concerns about ground support and accommodations in the event of delays, may force cancellations. Now, a change fee waiver is now in place for affected bookings, and passengers are urged to keep their contact details updated with and monitor Cayman Airways official channels for further updates. There you have it. Now, when it comes to the litter law consultation, did you know there's another bill out? And it's not that long. We could probably do that in like half hour, if less. The government is asking the public to weigh in on the proposed update on the Cayman's litters law, which could see fines raised to as much as $5,000 or up to 12 months in jail. The Litter Amendment Bill of 2026 is now out for a 28-day public consultation, and it aims to strengthen enforcement, increase penalties, and address long-standing concerns highlighted by the Beautification Task Force. Now, the changes include tougher fines for littering, penalties for causing someone else to litter, and stronger powers for environmental health officers to issue cleanup notices. Derelict vehicles also fall under the updated enforcement rules. The public is encouraged to submit feedback before March 5th, 2026. Now, there you have it. Let's taking our attention over there in Canada. Now, Canadian authorities are investigating one of the country's deadliest school shootings in decades after a gunman opened fire at Tumbler Ridge Secondary School in northern British Columbia. Police says at least 9 people were killed, with more than 25 injured, and 2 additional victims were found at a nearby home. The suspected shooter, believed to have died from self-inflicted injury, was found inside the school. The small community of Tumbler Ridge, home to just 2,400 residents, is in mourning as officials confirm there is no ongoing threat. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has declared 7 days of national mourning following this tragedy. Now, turning our news over to the United States, as we find where new research from Nonpartisan Tax Foundation shows that President Donald Trump's tariffs cost an average American household of about an additional $1,000 last year. Now, the study says the financial impact is expected to rise even further this year, 2026, reaching an estimate of $1,300 per household if current tariffs remains in place. Now, according to the Tax Foundation, the increased cost comes from higher prices on imported goods and materials, which are passed on to consumers. The report also notes that the overall economic effect depends on whether additional tariffs changes or introduces later this year. And you know what's going on over there in Barbados. Bahamians are heading to the polls today in a snap general election called 1 year early by Prime Minister Mia Mottley, who is seeking a historic third consecutive term. An estimated 205 voters are eligible to cast ballots as 93 candidates from multiple parties compete for all 30 seats in the House of Assembly. Now, political observers say that the race is largely between the incumbent Barbados Labour Party and the opposition Democratic Labour Party. Polling stations opened at 6 a.m. with long lines reported across St. Michael as voters turned out early. Both CARICOM and Commonwealth Observers teams are on the ground monitoring today's votes. Now, there you have it. Those are your top headlines making the Sabrina Speaks platform news for this evening, keeping it local, even looking far ashore, because at the end of the day, we're all connected some way, somehow. But it has been my pleasure. Happy birthday to everybody who's celebrating birthdays today, even anniversaries. Hope you're having a good one. And just celebrating life. Happy birthday, whatever it is you're celebrating. From all of us here, the Sabrina Speaks family, we celebrate with you. Connie Bonnie is in the house. Good evening to you. How are you? It's so good to look up and see you guys here. Hi, Ava. Good to have you here. Is this your first time? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hi, Daddy Z871J. It's good to have you too. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Damian Henry is in the house. How are you? How are you? Good to have you here. What is what? Hey, Carter. Hi. Yes, the number, as I said, is 345-936-8255 to participate in this discussion. We want to hear from you as long as you keep it respectful, and we prefer you to remain on topic. It makes everything go so much better. 345-936-8255 is the number to call in. The phone lines are open. I mean, we're continuing. It's part 2. So it's the number is there. So there you have it. Connie will be out whining and dining. You go, girlfriend. You go, you go, you go. I have no plans. I have no plans whatsoever. I'm one of those who just like to keep it on the DL. I am one of those ladies that just likes the just because you know how the reservations are going to be for this weekend. Anywhere you go, dinner is going to be, you're going to have to choose from this sitting or that sitting. Oh, I'm just so over it. For the day, I like the surprises. I like to be surprised. That's it. Clayton and Straight, how are you? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Phone lines are open. This is a continued discussion from yesterday. And Denny had asked, remember before, I think Mr. Balika called, Denny had asked, what if a tenant does not, I did it, I found it. It was section 68. If a tenant, going into the substantive topic, if a tenant did not want to allow the landlord in, and they were considering they followed all the rules and everything, right? Well, there is a process that was cited under this law that says how it actually should be handled. And it was quite interesting. It was quite interesting how it sat out in the law. I'm stumbling all over my words here today. And pretty much in layman's terms, what it says, 68 that says, this section 68 says violence for securing entry, right? Which ties in quite well to what we were talking. This particular section of the law makes it illegal for anyone, including the landlord, to use, let's say, if it goes into violence or threats to force their way into the property when someone's inside doesn't want to let them enter. So what that means is that if your tenant doesn't want to let you in, there's not anywhere you can push your way through. There is a process. There is you can't use violence. And if that tenant, putting this in layman's terms now, under this ghost law, residence tenancy law of 2009, it pretty much says that a landlord cannot use force, threats, or intimidations to enter, even if the tenant is being unreasonable. In section 68, as I alluded to, make that a criminal offense. So Danny knew what he was asking. What happens if after the 14 days, what happens if a month passed by and you still, after following all the rules, have not been given permission to enter? If you do that, under what was being proposed, it is considered a criminal offense. But it doesn't mean that the landlord is powerless. There is recourse. And you just have to go through the proper legal channel, which is one of the things I feel that Danny, in his reading between the lines, saying it but not saying it, was trying to get across. Because one, this means that proper written notice was given. Let's say the landlord followed all the rules as we outlined yesterday. Proper written notice was given. The reason for entry is lawful for inspections, repairs, and emergencies, etc., and/or emergencies, and the timing is reasonable if all of that was actually followed, and the tenant still refused entry, then the landlord can take the matter to court. Here we go again. And then the landlord can apply to the court for an order that grants lawful entry or compels the tenant to comply with the tenancy agreement once the court issues an order refusing entry because of the legal violation is just a disagreement. Now, one may say, well, you got to go through all of that. This place is mine. I'm the landlord. I own this place. It's all about balance. And I think, again, not speaking for Danny, it is what he was saying. Do we want these rules so that you have to go through this because all of these will actually have fees? And you may say, well, then why does the law work this way? The law as proposed, even though not enacted, I need my first-time persons to understand this is a continuation of yesterday. This 2009 law was never enacted in the Cayman Islands. We're still operating under a law that goes back to the 1960s. So yes, technically we're out there. You have to have a lease agreement if you are a landlord, and you must make sure that you yourself as a landlord, and if you're looking at the space of a tenant, that both of you follow the rules and that is outlined in that lease agreement, and at least be reasonable, right? So why the law works this way, as I was saying before, is because the law at the time was designed to prevent violence or force evictions. It was also envisaged at that time that it would protect tenants from intimidation, and also that it would also have insured landlords still have some legal pathway to access their property. And really, it's about safety first and then process, right? And what landlords should not do if this is the case, even if the tenant is being unreasonable. We kind of got a story yesterday that tread along the lines of unreasonable, not wanting to understand, right? The landlord still must not force their way in. The landlord would have no legal rights to even break locks or to threaten the tenant or to enter even without consent. And if that is done, criminal charges, fines, even jail time, and civil liability could be imposed on the landlord. But what the landlords can do if this tenant refuses to gain entry for, let's say, when proper notice is given, is that they document everything. They keep copies of notices as well and record the refusal in writing, email, or even a text. And yes, that's where the legal system comes in to apply for a court order. So bottom line is that tenants cannot block lawful access forever. But landlords cannot force their way into an apartment either, in any way. But the law then, as proposed of 2009, expects both sides to be reasonable, to follow the process. And if the process was broken down for whatever reason, then the court becomes the referee. So I just thought, because that stood out yesterday, remember we were talking about gaining entry for emergency or repair services to inspect. Yes, that is what is actually there. So Dan, I knew what he was actually saying, to be honest with you. Good evening, caller. I'm hoping we are hearing you live. Let me know if people can hear you. Good evening, caller.
Hey,
welcome. You're live.
Hey, Sabrina.
Hi.
How are you?
I am fair to fine. Continuing on with this very interesting conversation.
Yes, it is very interesting and it's very enlightening. No, I just wanted to how you can kind of get around that a little bit about getting inside your place you have rented to a tenant. I do my own pest control.
Mm-hmm.
So I go in once a month to spray, and I spray outside all around the apartment, the windows, that type of thing as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives me an opportunity to see if the property is being maintained and, not filthy, just any damage, that type of thing.
So you just do a 2-for-1?
Yes, ma'am, I sure do. Once a month, I get to get in my apartment. It's in the lease.
Mm-hmm.
And we were speaking of the lease yesterday. It's a very detailed lease, just unfortunately.
That little bit.
Yeah, I mean, if this apartment was in town on 7 Mile Beach or any place like that, it would go for between $2,500 and $3,000 a month.
Right.
But because where it's located, where I have the apartment out on the other side of the island,
Mm-hmm.
that's why I rent it at the price that I do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I said before, I've never had issues with any tenant in 30 years. And I really don't have, the only issue I have with this particular tenant is, the upkeep of how the apartment was found and the amount of money that was invested into the apartment, which I do every time a new tenant moves in. I mean, I do the sheets, I do the linen, the towels, I do everything. I mean, there's bamboo sheets, there's bamboo mattress cover. It's, I go all out. Like if I wanted to live there.
Right. But now you may have, again, here we go again. And I'm trying to be, and Jim, I am trying to be unbiased here to see from all angles.
I get it.
Let me tell you something. I don't know why I'm not one of these gymnasts or these acrobats trying to do this just to see from both angles. But you cannot really, you got to separate from what I'm trying to say now, how you see it, and try to get yourself into a neutral place where you're not thinking that way, but it still meet a livable standards, because there is a melting pot of who could be looking at your property to rent, and what they seem as higher standard may not be what you look at or what it's just culture, surroundings, where you're coming from. You see what I'm saying? It's a delicate dance around the subject, to be honest.
I'm very, very selective, and many times than not, it's been rented sight unseen, based on the pictures or the videos that I send to the potential
renters.
Renter. And I make sure I cover all areas there. I mean, I have all the before pictures. I always take after pictures when somebody moves out. Just so if issues do arise, like the one that I am concerned with right now, due to the the salt air, the moisture, mold, that type of thing. I make sure that, okay, here is the before pictures. So if anything does have to be addressed in a civil matter, I have that proof. You know,
Okay.
there's also a checkoff list. I mean, everything
Well, it
from,
sounds
you
to
know,
me like you pretty much got it covered. And if you looked at the link that I posted yesterday, right? If you
yes,
really follow that, even though this law is not enacted, has never came to fruition, you can pretty much build your lease agreement around what contents were actually put in there. And it pretty gives you much a good head start, to be honest.
right. Yes. All right. Well, I was just interjecting. If somebody wants to be able to get into their unit and
Yeah.
see what's going on, put it in the lease that they will be, you know, doing the pest control, and it will be done on a certain day of the month, the beginning of the month or whatever, and they can always go in and see what's going on.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. There we go. There we go. Well, I'm hoping that you get this one sorted out quite quickly, and you know that things work out for you.
I'm not really overly concerned. I just know now that the next go around that I will have it in specified in the lease.
There you
That
go.
it's, you know, and I might even put a locked cover over the thermostat.
That's right. Ooh, good for you. Well, then you better make sure that that is explicitly clear,
Oh yeah.
like
Yep.
bold in italics.
Oh, you betcha.
Because what happens on those nights when it's really, really cool and you just got to still maintain? Oh, you just can't, you don't want it above 80 is what you don't
Right.
want. And you don't
Right.
want, you prefer the windows to not be open.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's all we live and learn.
There we
All
go.
right.
Thank you so much. There
Bye-bye.
you go. Bye-bye. The phone lines are open, 345-936-8255. And do you know, one of the questions that came up yesterday, quite a few times, and I think we wind up with that as well, is then why wasn't this even considered? Why are we still actually don't have, you would say, a more up to modernized laws that govern this type of thing? And that is another thing that we need to be in consideration of. I know the spin that Danny had put on it. Why do we need government to regulate everything? Now, I know it could be just for devil's advocate, looking at the spin side of things, but what if we were a society where there were no regulations, no rules? What would that mean? We've seen both victims and landlords who have suffered the consequences because obviously of what, with not anything being explicit right now, you're pretty much left to your own demise. It's interesting. Unintended consequences. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Sabrina Speaks. You're live.
Good evening, Sabrina. Can you hear me loud and clear?
I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Is there ever a day that you don't look good?
A few, but thank you so much. I just really put it. Oh, some days I look rough. Oh God, some days I even frighten myself. But thank you, thank you. You got to put yourself together when you're actually doing this, you know. And I do take time in making sure that I show up at all times. But thank you so much. Always full of compliments, and I get that they're real, they're genuine. You do make my day. What's on your mind?
I was late to class yesterday, so I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure how much you covered yesterday. But did you talk about the other? I get that there's a real cry out for better living conditions and better procedures in place when it comes to rentals. But did you talk about the other side as to what this might mean for the landlords and how they potentially can work around this thing, like if this ghost law were to come into effect?
No, we never actually got into there because there were just real scenarios. All that I know based on where the trajectory of the conversation went is based on the caller feedback. Of course, you know, that steers it. But what we did wind up with, because we heard it both from landlord and persons who have rented before that contributed to the show, and we had both sides. One side saying, we need something. We just can't continue to go like that. We need something for sure. And then the other was, of course, why do we need government to do this? So we ended up right there, but we weren't finished either with presenting this ghost law either. So it would be interesting to get one's opinion because of what contribution Mr. Balika had said, that confirmed this was going back from 2009, repealing a 1988 law that was only a fraction to protect both or create a level playing field for tenants and landlords, but it was still under a substantive law dates back to in the 60s. Do you feel we just leave it and I consider it, how I would describe it, leaving it to the wild, wild west, and you pretty much on your own, and you just find an attorney should there be any the unintended consequences of not having something actually more modernized, not necessarily the exact thing here of 2009, I feel is not helping anybody at this stage. And don't care how you look at it, there's going to possibly be unrest, tensions, just poor communication and understanding, because not everybody is going to be like my previous caller. Not everybody is going to be like me or you, who would say, well, this is a no-brainer. You would put this in if I became a landlord. Or if I'm a tenant, these are some things that I would point out that would more than likely, because when you're writing something, you write it in your favor. But to be fair and balanced, point certain things out to a prospective or a potential landlord. Not everybody's going to do that. Some people just simple as a handshake until things go south. I really feel that this piece of legislation, even though it's not enacted for the Cayman Islands, is a good of a footprint of somewhere to start. Bearing in mind, there are a lot of exemptions that were presented back in 2009 that this law in itself did not cover. So the unintended consequences of not having it was never actually discussed because we were actually still in the presentation mode.
Well, I actually had an idea that I called in to the morning show some time ago when this very same topic came up. And I want to get your feedback on it before I talk about what I think are after a cursory reading of the law, right? Like what I think would be some of the unintended consequences of it from the landlord side anyway.
Mm-hmm.
What would be your thoughts? Because I'm a big believer in minimal government and market forces just being able to do their thing.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on perhaps setting up an official, how do we say, like a landlord tenants scoreboard or something where good landlords, right? Good landlords who how do I say this?
Just get it out. We'll sort it out.
Yeah, good. Like okay, so like the slumlords are weeded out because they would get a negative score, and the good landlords are given positive scores. And instead of penalizing all landlords and making it more making it harder for all landlords, why not just recognize the good landlords and then allow them to continue renting the way they want, and then it weeds out the
bad ones, the bad actors.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
Sorry, you kind of cut out. Yeah, basically would weed out the bad ones. I want to get your thoughts on that.
Well, we gotta actually have a true foundation before we even reach there. And here we are trying to modernize something because of the unfortunate situation of Ivan back in the day, why this one even came to fruition in the first place, right? And now I stand to be corrected because Ivan was what, in 2004? 2009.
2009.
Ivan? Hurricane Ivan? Well, whatever it was, this was born on what had happened then. The mere fact that we didn't actually get there, I think nationally, which is somewhat of a similar to that of a Consumers Protection Act of some sort, but this steered now at renters. If we don't have that nationally of what even the minimum threshold would be like in order to do that, save for a part of a group, be it an NPO or a limited liability group that gets public-private partnership support. We can't get there. We have to it makes sense what you're saying, but look at how the MSL Sariba has it, right? You're gonna have to call back because this is a straight call.
What?
We need to actually get to a point where we can know nationally what we want before we even consider that, in my opinion. Okay. And I normally don't give those too often, but we have to modernize from whence we come, where we are, which is still nowhere. And now it's an excellent idea what you're saying, but how can you get there if you still don't have a substantive piece of legislation that meets today's demands and concerns at a level playing field?
Well, here's what I'm thinking, right? Because I'm thinking of what you would get, what might get the biggest pushbacks when it comes to landlords, right? Because in doing a cursory reading of the 2009 tenancies law that wasn't brought into effect, you have stricter deposit controls, you have speed limits on eviction, you have tribunal decisions overriding landlord judgment, you have mandatory repair timelines, and I mean, these are not necessarily against tenant protection, but
who would control it? Who would actually validate good versus bad? What is the measuring stick for that?
But what I'm saying is that there's going to be a loss of flexibility in a high cost island market, right? So what I'm imagining now, I mean, this is just me playing devil's advocate, but you know me, I like to play the devil pro bono, right? Is that when you have putting yourself in the landlord's shoes, right? How would a landlord behave if this thing comes into effect? They might start doing things like stricter screening, right? Because if you're going to tell me, right, that eviction becomes slower or it becomes harder, again, putting myself in a landlord position, I'm gonna do what I can to reduce my risk before the tenancy even starts, right? So it might look something like this. I'm gonna demand higher income ratios. So before, where it might be a landlord now might say, okay, well, I need to see evidence that you make at least 2 times the rent. Well, now I have to see that you're making at least 3 times the rent. All right. I might say, well, I prefer to rent to government or corporate employees. Never mind anything about NAU, because anytime you go on any rental websites, they're talking about no NAU.
Yes, they're putting that. Yes, straight up.
Right. So I might shift. I might shift a model where I say I prefer tenants with local guarantors. Right. I might require stronger references. So what ends up happening now is that we have harder access to housing.
Correct.
For the young Caymanians that are starting out, lower income workers, self-employed people, new arrivals without any kind of rental history on the island.
Then that could lead almost to a little bit of discrimination.
Well, right. Because whenever you put a floor or a ceiling in effect, an artificial floor or ceiling in effect, other factors now become the determining. Hello?
Of course. Yeah, you're here.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
The other factors now determine whether or not a person gets a place or not. Right. Right now, how it is whoever can pay the rent. But now it's going to be other factors coming in. Right. So then what that leads to now, right? We have less access for what's already existing. Rent prices may rise as well. Rent prices may rise as well, because again, if I'm a landlord, my risk increases, because if you're telling me that I have to wait longer to evict my tenants, and there's restrictions on deposits, and I don't know who this tribunal is, who's going to be on this tribunal, whether or not they're going to do their job the way they intended to do it, right? I'm going to bake that risk into the price. So what's going to end up happening now is that baseline rent is going to rise.
Yep. But then I think that on the spin side of what Danny was saying yesterday, eventually what you think would happen, you've pretty much outpriced yourself out of the market, and people just won't rent from you, and you will still have your tenants, your units there. So it is the bottom line was, who would be doing all of this regulation? Why should it be government? And you're still having the conversation as to the gap that I'm still getting here is that something is definitely needed. You understand? For clarity, some sort of regularization is needed. Yes. Thank you, William Whitaker, for saying Ivan was in 2004. Hence, this law came about in 2009 because they realized what happened back in Ivan. So yeah, Ivan was in 2004. So this amendment, this law actually came about because of what happened in Hurricane Ivan.
But also think about it. Another effect for this, Auntie Sabrina, is many people who purchase properties, and we're talking small landlords that might own 1 or 2 apartments, or they might have a duplex or a triplex or stuff. These are people that are looking out for their elder years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in their older years, in their golden years, people looking to relax. People not looking to for more administrative tasks and more legal exposure. So what might end up happening, right? They might end up selling the property, or they might leave the unit empty, or they might switch to short-term rentals, which are only going to drive up the price even further, or they might keep the place for family use, right? So again, you'll have less rental supply, and what that leads to is upward rent pressure.
Right.
Right. So what may end up happening, right? Again, I'm just playing out extreme scenarios in my head, right? You might start something like an informal rental market might start to grow now.
Mm-hmm.
So you might have family or friend rentals that are quote unquote off the books, off record, right? Cash arrangement rents only. Cash arrangement rents only. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Unregistered tenancies, which are harder to regulate or to protect anybody. Right?
Mm-hmm.
If a deposit is capped, you might get landlords that might start creating things, other fees. Or in addition to the deposit, we're going to have an additional cleaning fee, or an administrative setup fee, or last month rent up front, which wouldn't be illegal, but it shifts the cost structure.
Right.
Right. So what you could end up happening is that you can have a 2-tier rental market. You'll have our rental market splitting into 2 tiers, where you have corporate managed rentals, they're fully compliant, higher costs and stable tenants. And then tier 2, an informal private rental market where there's less paperwork, more risk, and there's less tenant protection. I think what the major issue is, in my opinion, is that
I just added someone to the call.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Laws alone cannot fix housing pressure, right? And if the regulation becomes too heavy, what will end up happening is that landlords are going to leave the market, or they're going to switch to short-term rentals, right? In my view, I think the real long-term solution has to balance tenant protection with keeping landlords in the market and increasing housing supply in a sustainable way.
Okay.
Right? And until the supply, I think it's a supply issue, until the supply can consistently match the demand, housing is forever going to be one of Cayman's biggest pressure points.
Oh, of course.
Because it's directly tied to how our economy is designed to grow. Right? Our economy grows by bringing in workers, by bringing in investment, by bringing in global money. Right? But the housing market simply just can't keep up at that same speed, because building here is expensive. Land is limited, and the infrastructure takes time to expand.
Correct. We added.
It's retirement.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I want you to finish up.
I mean, the property here isn't just about housing. It's retirement security. It's investment, right? And the prices are influenced by global income levels, not just local salaries.
Correct.
So when you have a small island like this, and we have no suburbs to expand into, demand is almost always going to outpace the supply, and that naturally keeps the rents high.
Well, we've added Danny to the call, who was trying to call in. I don't know what's going on with your phone, Danny, but I added you to this WhatsApp call. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Maybe it's MI6.
Maybe. I don't know. With you, anything. You're like a magnet. What's that? What do you have to weigh into this caller's contribution?
I love how eloquently he is explaining what is the hard, cold facts.
He's always
The-
like that, though.
I know. I listen to it. And see, so the thing that comes to my mind is this: if we could get people informed, okay,
Mm-hmm.
then people could drop unrealistic expectations. Let me give you an example. I think I can't remember the term that was used. Was it a commissioner that the proposed legislation?
Commissioner, yeah. The
commissioner,
position,
yeah.
it was a commissioner.
Yeah. Okay. Only a politician could come on a radio show and explain to us that the government is going to hire a commissioner, right? And all of the related expenses to that commissioner, but it's not going to affect us financially. Only a politician could make that argument, right? Only a politician could make the argument that you run the risk of prison, loss of reputation, being dragged before tribunals, and on and on and on. And somehow this is not going to cost you anything. Only a politician could make that argument. And sometimes land law, when you think of rentals, sometimes people think just like, I rent an apartment, but rentals get more complex than that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so in my view, instead of having a commissioner that is dedicated to this purpose, what the government should do is allow for an expedited process in which it can be taken before a judge in the court. And it's not a formal thing where you have to line up with your lawyer and they line up with their lawyer, right? You can, and so you have someone who's competent and have an in-depth understanding of all of the wide range of possibilities that could happen when you're in a dispute that contains land. Because land law isn't as simple as you think it is.
Yeah, it's true.
Right?
And just for the sake, Danny, stick a pin just so that we can make sure that everyone understands where we're going with that title that you called there. Section 9 of the Residency Tenancy Law of 2009, they had a position who would have been called residential tenancy commissioner or commissioners, where under this 2009 law, it says that the governor would appoint one or more people to act as a residential tenancy commissioner or commissioners. And their primary job would be to help settle disputes between landlords and tenants, kind of like a referee or mediator. So just to make sure that people understand that this was a whole new position that was actually cited in the law that would be chosen by then at that time. And as this law states, by the governor would appoint this person.
Yeah. So right there alone, you're raising the cost. And then okay, so let's think about this for an example. Let's say that there's a dispute between the commissioner and the landlord about his judgment in a particular situation.
Mm-hmm.
How long would that drag out for?
I guess there would be like an appeal process, and
how much would that cost the landlord in lost rent and so forth, and reputation damage that's going to come up as a result of somebody else looking at a property that they don't have any financial interest in, making a decision because it's not costing them, it's costing the landlord something. And what I'm trying to get around to explaining here is that in instances is going to require the landlord to do all of this by lawyers. And unlike our friend on the phone here, who's the devil's advocate pro bono, lawyers don't work for free.
Exactly.
Okay? And so what I'm trying to say to you and the public is this: the customer always foots the
The
bill.
bill.
Okay, that includes the legal fees.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, understand that the more unreasonable you be with a situation, the more it's going to cost. The more it costs, the more damage you do to the situation. All of this, to me, can be simplified by, if the government wants to say place some sort of standard contract as a template in the regulations for people who can't afford a lawyer to
Mm-hmm.
have a document that they could start out with and tweak it, if they need to tweak it.
Mm-hmm.
But not that contract is required.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but that for people who can't afford it, they can use the contract. Now, the problem with that'll raise is that if they use such a contract, they're going to need to understand what their obligations are under that, right? So nothing is going to solve these issues outside of education and information on all sides. But there are very good reasons why the flexibility needs to be there. The more rigid you get,
Mm-hmm.
the more problems you're going to have. And what's going to happen down the road is you're going to have woke politicians coming in saying, "Oh no, I think it should say this," and they have no idea about the rental market.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden, now you have legislation that don't make sense, but it fits their ideology, so it happens. And now everybody is like, like, what's going on here?
No, but remember, there's
Right?
public consultation. You have senior
No,
policy
no, 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 no,
advisors who
no,
go
no.
out in their research and they make sure that they do these town hall meetings and they make sure stakeholders like yourself, maybe you're a big landlord, maybe the other caller is a big landlord, and you get members of civil society and you are free to go out there and open up and, voice your concerns. So it's not that you may have these woke politicians. They have
Yes, it
competent
is.
senior policy advisors that should be able to go and research and come back and present, the pros and cons.
All dumb legislation received public consultation, all of it. But when certain politicians decide that they're going to do something a certain way, they just say, "Okay, what you've said to us is noted," and they just keep going. Okay, I'll give you an example: digital ID. Okay, you have no idea the consequences that's going to flow from that. And so the point that I'm making is that the simpler way to deal with this is education, because there are reasons why things are the way they are. Let me say a note about what the caller said in relation to what is effectively the communist social credit system. Okay, because that's essentially what is being advocated, that you grade landlords. Okay,
Which is what the caller was saying. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. Okay, that is the kind of stuff why they want the digital ID. But the point that I'm going to make to you about that is this: is that when you get what you're asking for there, you're not going to like it, because the direction that it's going to go in, I'm afraid to tell you, the promises versus the reality that you'll get will be quite different.
Sorry, I just want to clarify. I just want to clarify something. What I meant
I'm
by
not saying that. I'm not saying that that's what you're asking for.
Yeah, right.
I'm not saying that.
Go ahead,
I'm
caller.
just saying that
Explain yourself for clarity.
I'm just saying, generally speaking, that's what is envisioned by those who support the digital ID, not you personally.
Well, yeah. So when I talked about my scoring thing or my rating system, right? It was about protecting the free market forces,
right?
And
I heard
and having tenants and landlords sort of know what they're getting, who they're going into contract with.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, I don't know if anybody is listening is in my age bracket, but when I was going to college, we had this website called Rate My Professor, right? And hundreds of people would write in, oh, well, I had this professor, and this professor was good at this, bad at this, good at this, bad at this. And they sort of came out like an average score, right?
Yeah.
And what it sort of did was that it allowed us to, well, number one, if it was a mandatory class, we knew what we were getting and what to expect, right? And also, if it was an elective class, well, hundreds of people are saying that this professor doesn't really read people's assignments and is, has a really poor manner. I'm not going to choose that class because that professor is dealing with that. So so really and truly the rating system was just basically for tenants to make an informed decision as to who they're going to rent from.
Go ahead, Carl.
I hope that I was clear. If I wasn't clear from before.
Well, all right. So, all right. So let's say a situation turns sour, right? And someone decides they're going to teach the landlord a lesson. And they say things that aren't quite so. How do you get that removed from the record?
You mean from the national record then, because of, let's say, the hypothetical, the ID now controls this rating, this scoring?
No.
Give me some more detail. I'm not quite clear.
Yeah. So in other words, I'm your tenant, okay? And the relationship between me and you goes south. And and for malicious reasons, I'm going to teach you a lesson. And so, by using this scoring thing that you say, and I make allegations that are not true, but that are damaging to your reputation. How do you as the landlord get that off of the record? Because that's going to impact your reputation and you financially. How to deal with that? Because the professors don't have to deal with that.
Well, first of all, I mean, first, this wouldn't be any sort of official kind of government-backed rating system that holds high and true. This would just be something that's okay. Like it'd be no different than me talking to my Auntie Sabrina and say, well, Auntie Sabrina, you don't want rent from Denny, because Denny is X, Y, and Z as a landlord, and just at scale. I mean, if someone,
which that doesn't have to be true, but yet it's causing him a rental.
Right, but if I'm a landlord, I mean, if I'm putting myself in the position of a landlord, right?
Yeah.
If I'm a landlord and somebody decides to paint me black out or paint me in a negative light, oh well, he's a slumlord and he's this and he's that and he's blah 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 and he's blah 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 and he's this and that and he's the worst and whatnot. I mean, people I can't control what people say about me. I mean, I can only put my place up for rent, and when I'm marketing it to the market, people come by, they see it for themselves, they talk with me. If they're interested, we go over the terms of the contract, and then then they make a decision from there. I mean, anybody can say anything negative about anybody. I can say negative things about you, Danny, and I don't even know you.
Well, that's true, but then you have the courts, and then that's where then it gets really expensive.
Do you think that's where we're headed? That everything, I sue you, and you're there. Yeah, I think that's where we're going to be headed. You look too hard at somebody, and you read that look differently. You just get a knock on your door or get served. You're served. Is that where we're headed?
I hope not.
there are people who are being sued right now for, I don't mean an active case, but I mean have been sued for things that they have said, and they ended up regretting saying the things that they said. And what I'm saying to you is this. So let's take it a little farther. Can the commissioners now take into consideration these comments that are being made in the public about you? Right? And will it influence them? And how will that impact their decisions in matters towards you?
Well, I mean, we live in a system, Denny, where you're innocent until proven guilty.
But we
mean,
know how that
you
works.
know what? No,
Not in a small island jurisdiction. I'm sorry. You have not been on the receiving end.
No, sorry. Hold on. What I'm saying is that anybody can say anything, right? I can say that Auntie Sabrina is the biggest XYZ in the world, and Denny is the biggest fill in the blank in the world, right? At the end of the day, if there's going to be a commissioner present and there's supposed to be a neutral party who doesn't know either of us, I'm going to be like, well, show me the evidence of this. Because if you're just going to say to me that Alfred is a terrible landlord and I hate him because this and that, I mean, anybody can say that. But if you're going to say, well, Alfred doesn't make repairs on time. Alfred, charges me rent. But then when the commissioner comes and says, well, are these true? And Alfred can show, well, I gave them 3 months notice that I had to adjust the rent. Or well, here are receipts that I've paid to, I've paid somebody to service the ACs or whatever it is that needs to, I mean, I don't know what goes on with land, with properties. I mean,
let me give you an example that's in the legislation being discussed. They allege that you're coming inside of the unit when you shouldn't be. So it's your word against theirs. Now that's a serious offense under the legislation.
I see.
So how do you prove that you wasn't there, that you didn't do what the person is claiming?
Access my phone records. I don't know. I mean, can't they?
Big Brother's always watching. Cameras all over the place, and then you infringe on someone's privacy.
Can't they check my cell signal and see where?
Oh my God!
How would you deal with it? I want to hear how you would deal with it. If somebody were to say that against you as a landlord, how would you prove yourself? Or how would you even set up yourself where it doesn't even get there?
I would point them to the section in the contract that allows me to come in and inspect the place.
That's simple. Yeah.
But what you have to understand is this. You're gonna give up flexibility. Okay. And then instead of you just making agreements with people about how you're gonna rent the place, then you're gonna be saying to yourself, well, we need to get people together so we could lobby the politicians to correct this short-sightedness in the law, and then we have to wait until the law gets changed before we can do something different. That don't make sense to me.
And your problem is that we already have a problem with pace, and it all depends on one's.
I'm not saying to you that zero needs to be done.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying be very careful what you ask for, because it will end up costing you. And the government is not going to be able to just take over housing and tell people how it's going to go with their rentals. That's not going to happen. Right.
But you think that was the direction this ghost law was taking eventually, or that's where it could end up?
It could, because if you listen to what people say, is that there are people who believe that you need to have rent control. No.
But they're saying
But
that even with
but what
groceries and certain items for the supermarkets, that should
but
be
what does
basic.
that look like? Wait, but wait,
Ah,
I have to jump in here. I have to
correct.
jump in here
Correct.
because I agree with Denny insofar as you want what you want till you get it,
Yeah.
right? But what people when people say rent control, I mean, people need to understand that Cayman is a high cost built environment, and you have real cost drivers. Like, I mean, to build a place, import materials, there's shipping costs. You got hurricane building standards. To pass something in planning is a slow process, as many of my friends who are building apartments will tell me, right? Then there's insurance. Then there's a skilled labor shortage or skilled labor shortages that affect with the building price. And there's the land cost, and there's the financing cost. I mean, even ethical landlords have to charge high rent just to break even. So when people say they want rental controls, the problem is a supply issue.
Yeah, and which brings us to this next point. Then there is the crowd of climate change. They don't want any more build because they think, well, we've built too much already. And so what that does is that it doesn't allow for easing of the pressure. So the government, on one hand, has policies that restricts the ability to get to supply what is needed that they want on another hand, because the government will look at it and they'll say, well, we want to build the financial industry or the tourism industry as an example. Well, that has associated consequences. And so you have to meet the demand in order for that to happen. Well, if you're not able to meet the demand, then somebody's
Yes,
calling.
go straight.
Yeah. If the developers are not able to meet the demand,
Mm-hmm.
then you're not going to ease the price pressure, right? And then let's just say you have
Mhm.
another hurricane. Let's call that one Ivan's ex-wife, and
Mm-hmm.
you have even more damage than Ivan did. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and so now you have a shortage of places for people to live, and now you have a very bureaucratic environment to get back to having those places repaired.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you don't want people to live in certain circumstances on a regular basis, which I completely understand. But in an emergency, you may have to lower your standards. Okay, because it's either that or you sleep in a tent on the beach, which is illegal, by the way.
Or under the stars.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say to you is that it's not just about, oh, this is a low standard place. There are more issues to consider. When you're doing legislation, you have to do legislation that takes a lot of things into consideration. And I think that being too prescriptive
Mm-hmm.
is unwise. I think the wiser thing to do is to have a public education program to get people to understand why it's important to have the flexibility, why it's important to be reasonable. And I'm not saying that people should just be able to keep their places however they feel like, but you know, you got to understand that when a third party is making a judgment about what they think is adequate, that sometimes can end up in a lot of confrontation.
Well, can I get one of you? Because I want to try and add somebody else to the call, but I don't want to disconnect you guys.
Sure,
Okay.
sure.
So let me try to add this person to the call. But go ahead. Let's see. Hope I don't disconnect you. Continue with your conversation.
You have anything you can reply to that, Alfred?
No, I don't think anybody can disagree with that. I mean, I think that that's a I mean, more education is always going to be better than less
Exactly.
education. Um, but I mean, in terms of what the levers, I think because it's a supply issue, I think the I think three realistic levers that Cayman could pull to lower housing pressure, um, even though they're not going to be fast and they're not going to be cheap. I think one would be to increase housing supply at scale, especially at the middle income housing. You have faster planning approvals for multi-unit developments. Give real incentives for developers to build long-term rental units, not just luxury condos. Everything on this island is luxury and luxury and luxury, right? Um, have some sort of public-private partnership for workforce housing, and work on higher density in specific corridors. Not everywhere, I'm not saying everywhere, but in strategic locations. And you're gonna get some community resistance. You're gonna have the NIMBY people coming in, and like you said, the climate change. And I mean, I'm not against climate change, advocates. I think that's one lever. I think also align population growth more closely with the housing capacity. So perhaps tying some work permit growth to housing availability, or requiring large employers to help house their workforce. Phasing labor expansion based on infrastructure readiness. And I think perhaps the another lever would be to lower the cost of building.
Okay.
And how do you propose to lower the cost of building?
Well, I mean, off the top of my head, I think you could have something like a bulk government procurement program to lower cost per unit. You could give incentives for modular or faster constructive methods. Insurance or financing mechanisms for workforce housing bills. Have faster inspections plus approval timelines, which reduces holding costs. I mean, that's a start.
How would you improve the inspection timeline?
I'm all ears.
Well, one of the biggest problems you have with the process is that you need to have plans approved for work that is done. Let's just say interior work that is done, even if it's not structural. Now, I heard an explanation that, well, while it might not be structural, it still contributes to the seismic considerations, earthquakes. And I don't really buy that argument. It's not structural, right? So let's say you have a hurricane and you didn't suffer any structural damage. You got flooded and so forth, and you need to change the, let's say, sheetrock or something to that effect in the place, but you're not touching anything that's structural. You still have to get plans drawn, which is expensive, and approved, which takes lots of time to do the work. I think that we have reached a point in the Cayman Islands where we have excessive regulation. And you see what I what I find amazing is that on one hand, the public is saying the cost of living is out of control, but on the other hand, they're clamoring for things that raise the cost of living. I just find that. I mean,
you want what you want till you get it.
Yes.
Like I can't. I mean, I don't know what to say to that.
Well, the thing is, the fact that we're actually appearing to be going around in circles in this, and still I can say I'm feeling some warmth that something is needed, but be careful what we ask for. Can I at least get a yes on that? And we can't continue to
yes.
operate
Yeah,
under
I-
1966?
I'm not saying to you, I'm not saying to you that nothing needs to be done.
Right.
But you know, if like I said before, only a politician could come on a radio show and explain how raising the cost of living isn't going to be cost us more. Right?
But
So you
we
gotta be
knew
careful.
otherwise. Hence, did you hear the Sabrina Speaks platform headline news for today? That government is revisiting some of this after talks with stakeholders and chamber and businesses alike about the new revenue measures. It's the same thing that you were saying. I mean, a lot of people were saying it.
Yeah. But how much money did it cost us to get to that position? You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because politicians don't just sit there and make decisions and go through a 30 or 30 something step legislative process for free. Okay? This
Yeah, we
costs
know that.
money.
It said it. It has been said.
So now they have to pay to go through that legislative process again.
And I guess they're looking at the same implementation of Caymanians with the DMV and the driver's license. Remember, that was a question that I threw out. And this is by all means, and I think that was the beginning of the year or just before. Are we sure the March delay was not because infrastructure wise and otherwise, you don't know who's who, because the DMV was never equipped to determine one's nationality?
And
with that, I'll step back into the shadows. This has been the Devil Pro Bono offering free advice while the meter isn't running.
I'm gonna even have to, because I
Cayman,
thank you so much. But please stay tuned because we love your feedback. We got another caller too that's trying to get in. I just can't get them added. So if you could wrap up for me, Danny, so I can invite this other perspective.
I just want to make one comment.
Mm-hmm.
You remember when I advocated that in the immigration law, the definition of a Caymanian needed to properly describe those who have it by right and those who have it by grant?
Yeah.
I was told that that's discriminatory.
Mm-hmm.
And then the same government turns around and goes and creates licensing fees for driver's license based upon nationality. You can't make this stuff up.
But you see, unless you take people back and remind them of this, then you would have been seen like a troublemaker. Sometimes you have to go back, which is why constant and repetition at times, sometimes you will find topics and subject matters seem repetitive here, but it puts everything in perspective. Like I said, Taco Bell opened, they didn't survive. Olive Garden was once here and it didn't survive.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't ready for it. But that's just an analogy.
I know. Jesus was a troublemaker. Look where it got him.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's deep. Oh my gosh, that one deep. You son of a gun, you. But thank you for your contribution as usual. Thank you so much.
Right,
Let's get another perspective on the line here. 345-936. Let's see if we can get this caller. My apologies, caller. Oh my God. Very interesting. Where did it get Jesus? Crucified. That's exactly what it did. Oh gosh. Very interesting conversations. And I like the fact how we can come back. Good evening, caller. You're live on Sabrina Speaks. What's on your mind?
Yeah, good evening.
Hi.
Yeah, is there a renters association or something here that is registered?
No, not that I'm aware of, because that is another way as well. I saw where something in the United Kingdom was coming up that there's a renters association there who were looking at defining their things, and you can just Google that as well. And they are calling for a meeting, and it's going to be virtual with certain changes that they're going to actually be making as well. So that popped into something, but to the best of my knowledge, there isn't a renters association here in the Cayman Islands.
I agree with what Dan is saying and the other guy is saying, right? They got a point of view. And they could beat me up if they want, but I'm one of those that think that rent got to be regulated by government, because what if coming like what they're talking about would exist if it was a perfect scenario with people and rentals, landlords and the people that renting, but that don't exist because the people not gonna do the right thing. First of all, you gotta force some people to do the right thing. That's why there's a speed limit on the road. That's why there's laws on the land. Even the Bible got a 10 commandments. So people just generally not gonna do the right thing. Some people gonna do it, and then some people that don't do the right thing, they're messing up for the people that do the good thing. So I'm one of those that think that government got to put their hand into this. And the thing is that what we saying here, these ideas for the last 2 days I've been listening, isn't any ideas that the government themselves don't know about. The governments past and present know all of these things what we saying, all of these ideas what we bringing up and think. It's just that they are afraid to go to the left or to the right because they gonna hurt somebody. Making the decisions gonna hurt somebody because not everybody gonna agree with what you're doing, but certain things gotta be done to better the situation as a whole. People not doing the right thing. People are housing criminals. The people renting places that are unsanitary. That's the thing. Not era apartment gotta be marble top and up to one standards. I agree, but there has to be a basic standard that the place is rentable. That's what I'm getting at. You can't rent a place if it infested with rodents and all that kind of stuff. Now, what is happening? Like what Dennis said, yeah, you got the rights not to rent it, but people not gonna do that because people are desperate because they come in there to say, well, this place is only $200 a month, and a boy, I'm gonna take a chance because I only here for a year, or I only here for 6 months, so I'm gonna save money, I'm gonna put up with it, and I just gonna save me some dollars and do it and get out. And then the place given disease and all that, and then there's a disease outbreak and all that kind of stuff. Some of these places not got decent bathroom and all that. People bathing outside and all that kind of stuff. I mean, the government got to step in. These places housing criminal in some cases. Government should know the people. I'm just specifically gonna talk about people that coming in here on permits now that gonna rent the place and thing. When they come on the airport, they should come with a paper saying exactly where they're gonna rent, and the government should make note of that to know where they're gonna rent, and the landlords of that place. If they move, they got to be a report. Well, they move from here and they go on to this next place, so that the government itself could keep track of these people. Because you got people here that government can't find. You got people here that is on permit and they move from one location when they come in, go on to another location, and government don't know nothing
updated.
about it until they're ready to go. All of that.
Or a renewal.
It got to be organized. All of that should be organized. It shouldn't be that difficult to organize things on this little island. Even a rental association. Okay, you're afraid of government. That government do it, but you get a rentals association then that people that say, well, okay, this isn't the standard that you gotta be rent, and we gonna report you. Inspectors gotta come and inspect your place and see that. I'm not saying, well, okay, you got sheetrock walls and cement walls, and no, you could house sheetrock walls and you could house cement walls in two different places. You determine your price and what you want to rent them for, but the place got to be sanitary and the place got to be to a certain standard. That's all I just want put across.
Understood.
And if government doesn't get involved, it's not gonna change because people not gonna do the right thing. Landlords want money because they got loan to pay and or whatever else they need the money for to live with, and renters are out there that they want to save money too on rent. And some people just want to say, well, I could sleep on the floor, I could sleep on the hard ground. I just need I just need a roof over my head in case of rain. That's it. I don't care. You know, all that kind of stuff. You got the rights to do it, but once it's up to basic standards, you know, okay, you got people that staying in one bedroom, seven, 8 people staying in one bedroom. All of that shouldn't be allowed. You know, unless you're gonna make a hostile or something. A hostile is different than apartments. You see what I'm saying? So all of that is another option. Cayman, you could get into hostiles, building hostiles and stuff now instead of and that'd be another option for the rental market. You see what I'm saying? So
Well, we
all
definitely
of that
need to know as a
is
jurisdiction. Thank you for your contribution, caller, and I'm quite sure you're. This is why I love the feedback from other people, to be honest. But it begs the question, and I think what I'm getting from both sides. Why does government have to do everything? I get what you're saying. You need the basic. You're not saying everybody need the 5-star of accommodation, but what is the national standard for what you would call then decent accommodations? Am I right?
yeah, exactly. And that not gonna happen if government don't step in and say, well, this is the certain standard that we want. We want a place to have water, running water, not brackish water, rain water, or usable water to use. The bathrooms gotta be up to standard and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? The septic tank gotta be functional and those kind of things. Adequate parking lot and all that kind of stuff is important too, because you're parking on the mean road sometimes on the pocket of the road, and then that causes another hazard too on the main road. If some of these places are over got too much tenants and stuff and not enough parking lot. So all of those standards, it got to be a basic standard. That's how life is.
There we go.
You know, I'm sorry. That's how I say it.
We
Okay,
thank you.
then.
We
All right.
thank you so much for your contribution. Appreciate it. 345-936 is the number to call should you want to weigh in on this topic and conversation. There was a question that came up here, not related to this, but I got to answer. Andrew was asking whether or not EID is mandatory. EID is not mandatory, Andrew. It is not mandatory. Right now, it's a rollout phase for Caymanians that are given first priority to apply. Good evening, caller. You're live on Sabrina Speaks. What's on your mind?
Good evening, Miss Sabrina. How are you this evening?
I am fine, thank you. Welcome.
Hello. Besides the mad drivers on the road, I'm all right. Oh my God. It's like you're trying to win a race with some of these people, honestly. I don't know where they think they're going, but anyhow. Where do we begin? Rent and landlords that think somehow some of them think they're better than the tenants they're renting to. Because you might be less fortunate in whatever way and you have to go to the government to get assistance. I don't understand how some people love to say one thing, but they do another. You rent a place from somebody and they say, okay, this, that, and that. But then when things start happening, nothing ever gets fixed on time. The caller just before me was talking about you have to have proper running water and it can't be brackish water, and septic tanks have to be up to par and so forth, and you have to have your conveniences. I found myself in a situation where I couldn't find anywhere else to rent. Where I had come from before, I ended up in the hospital. 5 days, 4 nights. I got a chest infection and I became asthmatic. And it was, I don't know how it was, but it was caught at the time and it was reversible. And thank goodness it's gone. But that was because where I lived, a studio rented from a Caymanian lady, big up in church too, and this is what I don't get. You rent places to people, and when things happen, you don't want to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
So where and what are you doing with the money? You know, I find a lot of this, I call it, because they think they're in the church, they can do as they feel, to people who have to go to government to get assistance.
Mm-hmm.
But then some people know your full story and others don't.
Mm-hmm.
But yet you cannot look at your fellow Caymanians as a darn friggin' Christian so-called Caymanian, because I've had the bad encounter of having two. And it's not a nice position to be in.
Mm-hmm.
One, the first one I had to call the police to because I was threatened.
And this
But
is
she
your
was doing
landlord.
like-
Your landlord.
Yes, she was my Caymanian landlord. She's an EMS at the hospital. I even sent Miss Lizette Yearwood an email and told her what took place. I called the police and told them she's not going to come and threaten me, but she's going to make my life miserable for the next 30 days. I said, oh, you think you are? Come on, show you whose life you're going. I told the police, go warn that woman. Don't come and threaten me. And then the last one that I just had to move from, her roof was leaking too. And wanted to deny to me that she didn't say those words to me. But you see, what you forget about me is I have a memory longer than a bat. And I remember things way much more than people think I should sometimes, because I can quote it word for word. And I said to that woman, I said, let me tell you something. You know I had an asthma problem. That's why I moved up from where I was. And I was renting a room. And everything I owned was in that room, because there were things happening outside of the room that I didn't want to get my stuff involved in, like mice and rat coming in through storerooms that not probably sealed at the back added on to your house from your laundry room. And I asked, couldn't you put a door up to there? The door to the so-called two-part storeroom with not being sealed properly up. The mice and rats would get in. At one period, I had 4 mice in my room.
Oh my.
There was a mother and 3 little ones. And we finally caught them. And then she caught 3 out in the hallway by the bathroom and her room and my room area the same night. And it still wasn't addressed. And then you have the mosquitoes coming out of the sink, because the picture I sent you, that was how it looked. And I made sure I told DEH and the MRCU it needed to be fixed before I left that premises. And it was addressed. These are the conditions that some of these women, Caymanian Christian so-called women, and I'm speaking it how I see it, because some of them should be ashamed of themselves. You're putting one front up and you're showing another face to others. The churches are not places where you go because you go to treat your own Caymanian people who might be less fortunate than you think they are. But we are still human beings. And I have a word to say to her and the other one. You are wicked people. And I keep saying it. It's not money that is the problem in this country, Miss Sabrina and Cayman. It is the love of money. And it is loved by too many hypocritical Caymanians who think for some reason that going to a church makes you a Christian. And that people that are not what you think they might be made of, Almighty God still made us. Whether we're straight, bi, gay, transsexual, whatever people are. There is one maker to all of us. And some of these church-going Caymanian women should be ashamed of themselves, of how they carry themselves when money gets involved in a picture. And I'm painting the picture because it is happening. It did not only happen to me, it is happening to others. And it is our own Caymanians doing it. And when you go to the people that be at the DFA, they tell you they do not get involved in it. No landlord-tenant disputes do they get involved with, or vice versa. But then why the hell do you make them sign the form saying the place that's rented has to be this, has to be clean, has to be working, this has to have access to this and that and that and that? So isn't that a lease? Because we present a lease to them and they give us one to sign from them. So it's a lease and they should be able to get involved in it. But they choose not to, because you know what? And I have said this, and I will say it loud and clear to any Caymanian. They can hate me after today. I do not care. We are all human beings and we all have to live in this country. And the hate and the discrimination, it has to stop against your own people, because you do not protest Christianity and let someone live in a rat and maggot infested home where you leave food on your countertop for days and it's maggot ridden. That is what I had to live with. And people don't realize when you're going to crack, you crack, and you let the paper trail do the damn talking. Because I have a paper trail that goes back longer than me. And I said what I had to say to who I had to say it. And when I spoke loud and clear, Miss Sabrina, I had had enough of being discriminated against. I have had enough of being hated in this country. And I will tell Cayman where the hell I went to. I went directly to the government and the opposition. And I said what I had to say. And I gave it one last time. I said, if I don't get this and this to live like a human being, the next person that contacts you will not be any bloody Chet Oswald Ebanks. It will be not a lawyer. Add S's onto them. And I'm coming with a trail. And I'm going to sue the ass off of the current government and the previous ones, because I have an email from a certain premier that no longer sits there, Mr. Alden, who didn't care. Mr. Austin Harris didn't care neither. He accused me of having someone to help. And you know what I told him? I have a sister in Florida and a niece. And the only thing those two have ever done is try to bring some sanity into my life from the madness and craziness that I have to live here with. So no, I didn't have anyone helping me, because when I was cut off in 2018 by that Miss Tamara Hurlstone that sits there still at the DFA, and when I couldn't find work because I was being discriminated against, and when nobody in this country would help, I then went to, yes, that man called Mr. Franz Manderson. And you know what his more concern was about? How I contracted HIV and what were the symptoms. That's what he was concerned about. So him and his world-class civil service needs to go to sit the blinkety blink up and shut up. This is real, and discrimination keeps continuing in this country. And I keep telling people, some of us stay quiet sometimes, but I have told some of the professionals that take care of me, when the dragon starts puffing, the dragon don't stop till that darn dragon gets to where he needs to go. And if it's coming for you, you better look out. Discrimination and the hate in this country by my own people. I tell you how bad it is. I had to go to Miss Lizette Yearwood and tell her that her staff member stood in the hallway when I couldn't breathe some 3 years ago and said to the nurse in charge of me, do you know what he has? When my curtain is pulled and I'm given a breathing treatment every hour, trying to just to breathe. And that, Miss Lizette Yearwood, for the whole of Cayman to know, was included into the emails when I sent it to the government and the opposition. because I had had enough of being treated like a dog in this country.
But caller,
And I am done with it.
caller, this is where it goes back to us saying that we need some sort of modernization, because saved by you actually taking this to a civil matter litigation to court. Okay,
They would have lost dearly because I would have sued them to pieces.
Even going to one's employer would not have made a difference, because at the end of the day, I'm hoping that this place, and just for clarity, did you say that the landlord where you previously lived left food on the counter that was rotting?
Yes, it had maggots on it.
And you actually shared the same space as a common space?
Yes, and not only that, she had a drug head doing stuff around her property and sleeping on her living room floor and using the same toilet that I had to use. And the man's teeth is rotting out of his head and he stinks. He stinks like he's dead.
Well,
that's what the DFA was told, and I told the government and the opposition it had to stop, period.
But this is where we are saying now, outside of you taking, unfortunately, this matter to a court without some sort of modernization of some form of legislation, some sort of minimum standards of that you have actually described, all you're left with is litigation. Because and this is where it is a sad situation. I have to up on the screen the picture that you sent with the open hole, which I don't care. For clarity, you did say that this was corrected. Did you say that this was corrected?
Yes, it was. It was filled in, and I can send you one when I get home, so you can see it and share it tomorrow or on your webpage.
Okay. Yes, but this is what we're saying. We're at the point now where you are Caymanian, but it doesn't matter. What we're trying to say is that something needs to be done that creates a level playing field, some minimum standards that holds renters and landlords, and nationally then some sort of accountability is what we're saying. And I got from previous callers to pretty much agree we need something, but be careful what you ask for was the takeaway.
Yes, we understand that. But if you are not, I mean, would the question I used to ask, would you want to live like that?
Nobody deserves to live like that.
And I told that to the Minister of Social Development, and I was told, no, you shouldn't have to live like that. And it's sad.
But you're saying despite them saying that, there was non-action is what I'm getting from you, for clarity.
They did provide some, what did they do? Some rental stuff off of EK, but then a miracle happened and a place was found by me. And let me just say this, for the first time in 8 years of my life, I don't care. I've had enough of it. You know, I have never bothered anybody. I don't intend to bother anyone. But when you are pushed to the brink, where some people think that they are high and mighty and that the almighty doors of the church is where they run to, it becomes a sad situation because you have God, a wicked Caymanian, and money. And it's not money. I keep telling people it's the love of money is the root of all evil. And it rent control, it should come in some shape and form. And standards have to be set. Doesn't matter who you are, whether you're a dog out in the street and not got nothing, you're still a human being. Because you're a human being. And this country protests to be such Christian-like folks. So if I am a Caymanian and I'm coming to tell you, I've had 2 landlords from hell that I don't want to see and I don't want to even look at when I see them. I turn my head the other way because I do not treat people that way. And people have to learn to understand church doors don't make people Christians. I told my last landlord, you keep breaking down the church doors. You keep breaking them down. And you keep breaking down the church. But the only thing I'm chasing after is God and his son to get to Jesus Christ. You keep chasing the church and the church doors. But I said, God does not like when you do bad to your own people.
Mm-hmm.
That's the message I portrayed to her. And I hope I'm sure everybody in Cayman is shocked because I am opening my mouth. But things have to be set in this country. We have to learn to accept and respect each and every one of us. We are Caymanians. And I keep telling people, I do not, said it the other day on Miss Sandra's show, I do not against anyone coming here to the shores of Cayman. This is my home. But when you come here, you learn that we are to be respected, and it comes from my own people. They need to start respecting their own people because we're all going to die at some point. And if we can't get along with one another, but we're kissing the foreigners and we're hating on our own people just for the love of money, because that is some Caymanians, true to the point, full stop. I got them in my family where they think that money rules the world, but it doesn't. Because what is left behind on this earth stays on this earth. Yeah, put it in a coffin. So my own people, they love to discriminate and hate against people. They love it. The Caymanians love to hate on their own and kiss up somebody else's ASS. Because all I have to say is where I was, I could describe, I said it was a slum. And I said, I know only got this picture of the outside or inside of your property. I have more. And that ended the conversation because I blocked her from that time. Because I didn't want to see her or hear from her anymore. I had to live there. And the nastiness continued till a couple of days before I left. The whole was finally addressed. And it's a horrible way to have to embrace someone who wants to think that they are better than the person they're renting to. And I don't care if Cayman hates me tonight or likes me tomorrow morning. They didn't give me breath to breathe, and they're not going to friggin' take it away. But I want everyone to understand we are all made by one maker here. You hear me? One maker.
What was
And
the
when you go
terms and
to-
conditions of your contract that outlined the responsibilities? Did you have a contract, or because it was something that was paid for by the government, you weren't a part of
No.
that?
I had a contract.
What
And
did
it
the
stated
contract
in
said
there-
about cleanliness and repairs and upkeep of the place? Do you recall that?
It basically was simple. It said it had to be kept.
Oh, but it didn't.
And-
It didn't. It wasn't like who was responsible for that.
Yeah, the landlord was. The landlord was responsible for keeping the place working condition. At one point, there wasn't water for 4 days.
Oh wow.
And I got told when I started that I was being, what was it? What was it said to me? You're telling lies on me. Yeah, still got the text. I blocked her on WhatsApp and regular phone. Don't want to see her, don't want to hear about her. She's the love of money. It's sad. It's really sad.
But now you have found yourself better accommodations and you're feeling much better. Is that what I'm getting?
Life is finally beginning to settle down, and I don't bother anyone,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't disrespect people. But when people come with me with disrespect, I'm sure it's the heck going to give it back to people now
Mm-hmm.
because I'm tired of it. I really am. And people better stop it or this dragon will start to roar. Because some of the worst are those police officers at West Bay Police Station. When you complain about traffic on the roadways, they don't do anything. So we can just leave that there and say to Mr. Kurt Walton this evening, this is one last chance, Mr. Kurt Walton. You heard my name. My mouth is big. Tell your rude, disrespectful, insolent police officers at the West Bay Police Station, I say, calm their attitude down and stop hanging up phones on people and get some police presence on Birch Tree Hill Road, which turns into Conk Point Road and Captain Reginald Road, and get some from both ends of what is Northwest Point Road and stop the speeding. Because every day I have to fight idiots on the road and I'm almost getting killed up till this morning. And I've had enough of it, Mr. Walton, because your police officers just drive by in the people's vehicle and they do nothing but look. But yet they're being paid handsomely by us. So do your jobs or we can get you removed real quick too, Mr. Walton. The people will just say, we had enough of you. It should not have to get this way to get some action on our roads, okay?
Well,
Didn't someone just get knocked down the other day in hospital dying?
in regards to what actions you took in regarding to moving and finally getting someplace that is clean and all of that sort of stuff, that is exactly what people are saying. You had the right to move, but then you found challenges in finding something that was within a cross point that made it even more habitable, correct? Because if people do what you do, then landlords will actually get their act together by leaving. But many a times there's no
choice.
Exactly, because there's none available, is what we're saying.
And it's sad because it is sad. Because if you actually looked at it the way we look at it, you don't think we expect that we're going to take care of your stuff. Accidents happen in any time of our lives.
But not everybody has the same mindset. Caller, we got to be honest. Not everybody is okay.
We know. And this little shack is good to rent and does that. And this person will have to take it for how it is. And it's sad. It's sad to see what some people have no choice to live in Cayman. And I think what needs to be done here, and I'm going to wrap up here within a minute, so people don't think I'm just rambling, but what needs to be done here when housing is looked at, it has to be a holistic approach done to it, because many persons that have to depend on government, which is in turn the people. We are all paying for it, whether we're getting help or we're not getting help. But we don't want to be treated like we're not human beings when we have to come to you. And people have to learn to respect one another.
Dignity.
And use the little bit of common sense we were all born with to help yourself and try to help the rest of humanity. But we are all going to have to look at it in a societal view. And what that means, whether the government has to come to the people and do a referendum and say, look here, this is how we are wanting this to be. Do you agree with what points or whatever we're trying to change here? It has to come from the government.
But you have the other side that says government policies is, for example, what's causing a short in supply. What would you say to some person to that side of the coin, that maybe some of the policies that are in place that probably needs to be revisited would actually solve some of these problems that you're actually pointing out and not actually make it better?
Well, there's good and bad in everything. And if we keep looking at it, that we're going to make people have to beg, basically, sometimes for help, or we're either going to look at it to try to fix, can this person still really work or can they not work? And what can they do? And then you have the ones that are we're in the system and we don't have anything to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, you're totally dependent on the system.
Because of partly of them. I have the email. I'm afraid to say people need sometimes to be embarrassed. I keep telling people, what if it was you? What would you do?
The caller, we're at 6:59. I'm so sorry that we have to cut this.
We have to, the government has to do something to address it. And the people that are in the system, they're the ones they need to start speaking to learn what has happened in the past and what can no longer happen, because no one knows their circumstances in life at any point in time. And, sometimes the truth has to come out. As hurtful as it might sound, I'm not being vindictive to anyone, because I could be you tomorrow.
Caller, I got to end you. I got to end you. The time. We got time. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Bye-bye. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to another end of today's episode of Sabrina Speaks. It just keeps getting longer, and it looks as though you guys are tuning in, just steaming up when we're almost at 7 o'clock. But I totally get it. I appreciate you no matter what time you join us. Tomorrow is another interesting day. We will definitely have another episode of Sabrina Speaks that, let's hope, is just as engaging as this one and also thought-provoking. You got to keep it locked on this space to find out what that's all about. But you are the center. You are the foundation of who we are. I want to thank you for your continued support, for your continuing to show up here for us every evening. And until tomorrow, please do be safe on the roads. As usual, love you lots. Take care and have a good evening. God bless.
That's a wrap for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you for tuning in and for being part of the conversation. Remember, the dialogue doesn't stop here. Stay engaged, stay informed, and most importantly, stay empowered. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m., same time, same place, right here on CMR TV and radio, where your voice matters and your truth is heard. Until then, Cayman, take care of yourself and each other.
That's it for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks, where your voice matters, your story counts, and your truth is always welcome. Join us weekdays from 5 until 6:30 p.m. right here on CMR TV as we dive into the topics that matter most to you. Catch the show live or on demand at cmrtv.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram so you never miss a moment. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and always speak your truth.